Ladies and gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
It's time for the Early Bird Special. Bringing you the best stories from the world of sports and sports entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Sparky and Burdick.
Well, good Monday morning, Bakersfield, surrounding communities, everybody watching online on YouTube and Twitch. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. Sparky, good morning.
Good morning. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Let them know what they're in for.
Oh, the NBA free agency starts today, I believe, at 3 p.m. So we'll get into some NBA rumors and some extensions that happened over the weekend. We'll talk UFC. We'll talk a little bit about Clash of the Champions, World of Champions, Night of Champions, Day of Champions, whatever. We'll have our boy Brian, the Bandit Cobb, joining us at 7:30 live from Birmingham, Alabama, where he is back in the ring or the mat, I would say. I'm so used to talking wrestling that I forgot about wrestling. And he is a old school MMA fighter that retired for a few years, but he is back. He is fighting out at the Fire and Police Olympics Games. He'll break it down for us now that he's retired from the MMA. He found a way to get back to fighting and the legal way. And we'll talk about the federal investigation on Mr. Malik Beasley. And we've got some other news and rumors. There was some UFC fights over the weekend. Paul was had a match that I believe came to a decision at the end.
Yep.
But we'll talk about that and much more. You can follow us or find our video feed on the Early Bird Special YouTube channel. And you can call or text in anytime at 661-842-2000.
And also, we can't leave this out, even though we don't really talk about it very much, but Wimbledon's underway. So the men's singles first round has just begun this morning, I believe. There's a handful that are done. We'll give you a rundown as close as we can. I mean, it's going to be a wide margin of names, so it really doesn't narrow down for the next couple days. But it's going to be pretty exciting tennis to talk about. Maybe we'll get somebody in here later on in the week to talk about that. But to start out the show, we're going to start talking about this Malik Beasley business because the U.S. District Attorney's Office has reached out trying to investigate a situation with free agent guard Malik Beasley for allegations of gambling on NBA games and prop bets.
Probably bad timing.
No, terrible timing. terrible timing. Because he was just in the midst of working out a 3-year deal with the Detroit Pistons to bring him back for $42 million. But there's at least one prominent sports book that has come out and said that there's been some inconsistencies when it comes to Mr. Beasley's stat lines, dating back to all the way back to January of 2024 when he played for the Bucks, including certain situations in key games in the playoffs against the Knicks. Now, again, gambling allegations are really hard to, how do I put this? Prove. Because especially if you're playing a game, you have to prove that they did something in order to shave their stat points or shave the score of whatever. And there have been multiple instances, obviously, in the last couple of years that people have been caught by this. I mean, we just had a player for the Toronto Raptors get caught by this last year.
Jonte Porter.
Yep, who now gone from the league, will never play basketball again for good reason. Malik could be the next in line in a hopefully short list of athletes that have been doing this. I've always been on the side of, why don't you just wait until you're done?
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong.
Blow your money after.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Use whatever you want on your money. My point is, I've always thought that the best people to become professional gamblers, at least after their careers, are athletes. Because who knows the game better than the people who played it? So why not wait until after your career is over? Make your millions upon millions. And like Sparky just said, blow it on whatever you want to. If you end up winning, great. If you don't, no one cares because it's your money. But just the situations that have been highlighted with this, like, for instance, there was a game, I believe, back in 2024 where he had a stat line of, I believe, over under 2.5 rebounds. It was, I believe at the time, it was like a 120 or a plus 120 bet of some kind. but people were betting the under so much that it shifted it to a negative 520 on the opposite end, in which it looks like Malik may have benefited from that because during the game, he went out of his way to get 6 rebounds. And I'm pretty sure there was some sort of connection that he may have made a bet in somewhere along these lines as well, or have influenced said bettors to take the under.
Bet.
Like, I don't know exactly what is going to be what's going to come out of this, but it's just another really bad story of an athlete picking the wrong time to get into betting, because this is just dumb. But I don't know. Maybe this is me being a skeptic, because obviously betting has taken over a lot of sports, and we got to get used to it being there because it's not going anywhere. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I'm curious to see how they found him, if he was stupid enough to bet it on his own account.
But that's why I'm saying, like, the only way you would have been caught is if someone tied a bet back to you directly.
And this is the third player in the NBA, like you'd mentioned, over the last 5 or 6 years that has been caught doing it. So you would think you would learn from these guys. And I've talked to some people that have family that play in the NBA or in the NFL, and they've even had letters from the league that send out to immediate family members that say, hey, you cannot bet on this. And they list whether it's a team or a team that their family member is playing against, and they get a monthly email. It's not just a once and, hey, you can't do this. They actually have them on a watch list where they're sending these emails out to family and friends of this certain player or so-and-so. So, I mean, it's not like they were just surprised or shocked that, hey, you know, how did they know? I mean, if you've gotten the email, then you're obviously on this watch list.
They're looking,
and it's just silly. I mean, if you're making millions of dollars to play in a sport, why couldn't you just hold off,
That's my thought.
until your career's over? Or, you think you're getting sneaky. I mean, you're making prop bets, fool.
Yeah.
Like, just relax. And you would think they would be prepping for a game, not making side pieces, side bets, hustles. And it's just kind of a sad thing. And I think we've seen it in all sorts of different sports, and I don't think it's going anywhere, but they've got to do something.
I mean,
that whether it's education to these players, or maybe it's just the stupid ones that think that they can beat the system.
See, but even with education of it, I don't think that would help anything, because, I mean, think of it this way. You go to your job every day. Every year we have to take the same health and safety training courses. You probably have to watch a ton of videos, take a test. It's the same thing for them at that point. It really is just more of a deterrent of, like, legally the NFL can say, well, we did everything we could to tell you not to do this. So now this is on you, which honestly is already on that point, especially I'm sorry, we should be talking the NBA, not the NFL. I shouldn't bring in the NFL, but you know what I mean. Any sporting organization that tries to do that is just trying to save their own butt. And I get that, but I agree with you. It's like more of, you're making your millions right now playing in the league. You should focus on making your millions playing in the league right now, and then make more money after you're done when it's legal for you to bet. Because like you said, the deterrent of this and why they do this is a better way to put that, is because of the gambling situation and the connection to the mob and the mafia, and how games can get obviously screwed and skewed in certain ways because players want to make more money by losing the game rather than trying to be competitive. And I totally understand all that. But when you also make the relationship with places like DraftKings, you also have to understand that opens up a relationship with the players as well. So I don't know exactly what you can do to deter this. Maybe you have to make a system that, like, locks out people from these apps and stuff like that if you're related to anybody, or if you're friends with anybody. I don't know exactly how you can go about fixing it, but it's more of, for Malik's sake, I hope this doesn't come back and actually become true, because if so, your career is probably over, my brother.
I would probably think so. I think that's how it ends. Over. And this was Shams talking about this.
This is a serious development for one of the NBA's top free agents right now. Sources tell me the U.S. District Attorney's Office is investigating Detroit Pistons guard Malik Beasley on allegations of gambling on NBA games and prop bets. I'm told it was during, allegedly, the 2023-2024 season. I have a quote from Beasley's attorney, Steve Haney. He said an investigation is not a charge. Malik is afforded the same right of the presumption of innocence as anyone else under the U.S. Constitution. As of now, he has not been charged with anything. I am told, though, that Beasley and the Pistons were in serious talks on finalizing a 3-year, $42 million contract that would have brought Beasley back to Detroit. But now those talks are on pause. Talks around the league likely on pause for Malik Beasley as well.
So I bring that up because
The wording from the lawyer, though.
yeah, and there's no charges as of right now.
Yeah, no,
but it's obviously putting a halt on his career and his, extension or his contract with the Pistons.
Right.
So if you're the Pistons GM, are you just washing your hands of that and we just talked about it. The free agency starts today.
Right.
And that's $42 million that you're going to pay Beasley. Now, are you holding off and hoping that he gets away and can play, or you just keep shopping?
Honestly, I'm hoping he can get away. I'm hoping that something happens where that you can finalize that contract, especially since he was so big to the offense for the Pistons last year. And he really is probably the best, if not second best shooting guard in the free agency market this year for the NBA. Of realistic players that could actually hit the free agency market, I should say, because obviously James Harden was up there as well. But it is, to me, a situation where I don't know if you want to stick around, because as I just said, when the audio bite was done, listening to the quote from the lawyer, which I read yesterday as well, it doesn't seem like something that is your usual, like, we're innocent, we're going to get this is going to get absolved kind of a thing. When your lawyer comes out and says that my client is due the innocent until proven guilty moniker, granted, yes, that's true, but you shouldn't be going out and begging people to see your person as innocent. We need the proof that he is innocent. And if they've already found allegations of you or someone connected to you gambling, much like we saw with even Shohei Ohtani, you're going to get in trouble for it. So there has to be some connection. I'm sure the U.S. District Attorney's Office has their reasons. They usually do not crack down on people unless they know for a fact that it's you. So I like I said earlier, hope that this is something that he gets absolved of, and it maybe was just like, Malik's brother or sister or cousin or aunt or whomever made a bet or a couple bets on their nephew and made a lot of money off of it. I don't know. We'll find out as this keeps developing. But
I saw that ESPN reported just a major sports book flagged unusual betting patterns,
right,
and including heavy action.
Yes, on certain situations.
So they have something.
It's like somebody's either tipping what he's going to do that night, or like he's paying attention to the lines and then having someone make a bet and then going against them. I don't know. I don't know exactly what the whole deal is, but it's just not a good look regardless. And for somebody whose career was honestly just kicking off and starting to get to a pretty good point, it sucks to see, because he really is one of the better scoring shooting guards, especially for the Detroit Pistons. So this is going to hurt them in the long run. And God, I hate seeing it, because I know this has been an issue in sports in general for years. I mean, you can go back to Pete Rose if you really want to. Why is gambling such a draw for people? Like, don't get me wrong, I get it. I love playing underdog fantasy. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, like, especially when you're making millions upon millions of dollars, I would assume that would be the biggest deterrent for me. If you're going to sit there and pay me $2 million and say all you have to do is not gamble on a single thing, yes, sir.
Sold.
Yes, sir. I never can step foot in Vegas ever again. Yeah,
fine.
Done. Okay, sorry, Vegas. I can't spend my money at you, but I can go spend my $2 million elsewhere.
Yeah, I'll see you in a couple of years.
Like, I don't know. That's just me. But we obviously are not these athletes and trying to make our money.
Well, we'll definitely keep you posted as this story progresses. But we'll take our first break, and we'll get into UFC over the weekend, which was 317, I believe.
317, yes.
Right.
Oliveira versus Ilya, and oh my God, it was awesome to watch.
Well, we'll talk about that and much more ahead of Brian Cobb, the Bandit, joining us at 7:30 right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 1230 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back. This is the early bird special. I'm Rick. That's Spark. We had UFC 317 over the weekend, and a weekend that was really a great one for contact sports. We'll get into the Jake Paul fight as well at some point during the day, and WWE's Night of Champions, as we have a 2-week rest before Saturday night's main event. But UFC 317 live from Las Vegas over the weekend. You had 3 unanimous decisions right before your 2 championship fights, where Pantoja, the first one, won by a submission in the 3rd round, about minute 55 or into the 3rd round. But we got to talk about this last fight, the main event, because that's really where the money was made. This is the one that everybody has been talking about all weekend long, and for good dang reason. Because Ilia Topuria, the undefeated monster of a man that he is, and he's not even a monster. He's a well-sized human from Georgia. Absolutely manhandled Charles Oliveira, winning in the 1st round by knockout, as he called before the fight. This man called his shot. He pulled a Babe Ruth. He pulled a Conor McGregor, and he did it. This dude is a bad man. 24 strikes landed out of 32 thrown. I mean, 21 to the head. 21 shots connecting to the head through defense. Like, it was just one-sided the entire round. I cannot believe it took that long for Charles to actually get knocked out either, because he was eating some of these shots. And to be honest with you, looking at this guy, he's the first ever undefeated double champ in the UFC. He is just, you got guys within his division, including Sean O'Malley, calling him the next John Jones. Like, it's some taller people are calling for him now to go after. I'm sorry, I had his name in front of Islam. They want to fight with Islam, which honestly would be fantastic. And there's rumors that he could potentially go up to bantamweight as well and go for a 3rd. Now, again, you would have to vacate the title and all of that type of stuff. I'm not saying he holds 2 belts right now. That's not the point. The point is that this guy's undefeated, 17-0. He's ran through 2 divisions now and potentially could go through a 3rd.
And as a John Jones fan, what do you say?
I mean, again, as I said last week, there is no man on the planet, I don't care who you are, that can walk into an octagon and walk out a champ or like winning against John Jones. I see the comparisons, do not get me wrong, in terms of dominance, but I would love to see a fight between the 2 of them, but it would be a massively outmatched one, if I'm being honest, because John is just physically statured way bigger than Ilia is. But Ilia Topuria is just, again, when you see video of O'Malley coming out and genuinely being shocked and saying, I'm glad he didn't answer my call out, like, he doesn't want the fight anymore. Sean doesn't want the fight anymore, although he'll take it. Don't get me wrong. He's a bad man, but he's been beat up the last couple of times he's been in an octagon. But he vocally said on video, and it's on the internet, that he does not want this fight anymore. Now, the crazy part about this, and Dana White addressed this afterwards, and I'll get your thoughts on this, Sparky, because I'd love to get Brian's thoughts on this too, since he is a former MMA guy. After the fight, Patty, one of the number 1 contenders for the title that Ilia has just won, the lightweight title, was somehow able to slide his way into the octagon and get a face-off with Ilia, which does not happen. Like, Dana was incredibly upset about this post-fight, talked about it in the presser, said if I was there, that would never have happened, but I had already moved out to my building to get ready for you guys here. What are your thoughts on this? Because Paddy Pimblett, who is a bad man in his own right, but when you have 2 guys face off like that in a very serious situation, it could have popped off at any moment. And what if these 2 started swinging on each other? Like, that's a serious situation that I don't know if everybody's really thinking about. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I mean, they're just lucky it didn't pop off.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, that's probably the key thing.
And words were said.
Yeah.
They threw some at each other. So,
and you think that's what is just a setup?
I think so, but well, that's kind of what I was going to get to is I hope it is, because although I do think, okay, in the UFC, this is kind of a scary moment, because imagine 2 guys who genuinely don't like each other. Like if it was Conor and Nate Diaz, Like if Connor slinked his way into an octagon after Nate had just knocked somebody out and they were jawing at each other, you really don't think one of them was going to swing on the other? Like it's a really sticky situation. However, I also take into account that the new parent company for the UFC, TKO, also partners with our most beloved WWE. And to sit there and say that the two of them are not learning from each other during this partnership would be completely irresponsible of me to say, because you notice the walk-ins for the WWE with they're looking like, like the athletes get for the NBA or UFC when they're in their, outside attire walking in with their suitcases and stuff. That didn't happen until TKO in the merger. Their really setup of the fights and how they're constructed and stuff like that, and the spectacle of it all, marketing of it all, exactly. They are learning from each other. And honestly, I think this could be a good thing for the UFC to learn from the WWE, because one of the best things that WWE knows how to do is promote their fights.
Yep, storytelling.
And the UFC really leans on their fighters to do that promotion. That's why people love Chael Sonnen for so long, because he was the best promoter possible. But if you learn from the WWE and allow more stuff like this, where you get that face off right after a fight and you get a little bit of that animosity and a little bit of
heated conversations,
exactly,
sell tickets
in the video and all that type of stuff circulating around the social media world and us talking about it in media in general, hey, that is automatic just build up for your next fight that you don't even have to pay for. It's already there for you. So I hope that this was allowed, because Dana kind of just turned his back and said, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
This is
I just wasn't there.
Yeah, I wasn't there. I couldn't have done anything about it."
He could play the Vince card.
I don't know, dude. Dana seems like one of those no nonsense guys.
Yeah.
When he's mad about something, he's mad about something.
That's what scratches my head about the whole relationship with TKO. And with Dana, of course, he wants the best entertainment, but the safety of his fighters.
100%.
And he's always talked about that.
100%.
He's there for the safety. So
and that's why, that's where the issue is right now.
That's the weird conversation between them and TKO. That's why it is just a thin line between what Dana's doing and what TKO is known to do.
True.
So we're going to see. Because I'm sure if this is what TKO is driving the UFC, we're going to see a lot more of this, the drama and, the storytelling. And that's what we love about WWE. And maybe they see that WWE is on fire right now. And, maybe they can bring in some of these, the viewers, and get some more UFC butts, and whether it's ordering the fights or, just getting those ticket prices.
It's honestly, I just think it's great publicity for you. Any publicity is good publicity, especially with the UFC. And I agree with you that I think they see how much of a spectacle the WWE has become, especially from learning from small things from them. So I think vice versa. I think Dana is just saying, you know what, we can take some stuff from you guys too and really incorporate it into our stuff, because some of the best parts about UFC fights are the pre-fight press conferences where you get the face-offs and the weigh-ins and stuff like that, and the confrontations between the fights, and you could tell there's actual animosity between these two fighters, because that's really what you're looking for the UFC to do, is show you that this is real fighting. WWE you go to for the entertainment value of it. You don't really go to see a real fight. We go to see the entertainment value of what crazy thing you're going to see next. UFC, we want the animosity. We want the emotion. We want all of that. And I think if you can somehow harness the promo skill of what a WWE wrestler does and make it a norm in the UFC, every single fighter would be a Conor McGregor.
Of course.
Well, not in fighting skill, but
attitude.
In mouth and
Yeah.
attitude. Exactly. And imagine what that would do for your brand. Imagine what that could do for your athletes in general. I mean, the money you could make off of that alone would be incredible. And the promotion for every fight would pay for itself.
Was that the fight of the night?
Oh, 100%. Ilya and Charles was 100% the fight of the night. I'm very disappointed that Charles went down the way he did, because Oliveira is a fantastic fighter. 35-11 right now is his record. But Ilya Tapuria is a bad man. I would not want to be facing off with that dude anytime soon. And honestly, if you're a bantamweight fighter right now, I'd be worried, because I genuinely believe this guy's going to go undefeated, probably take on Islam here next. Hopefully we'll get the 15 win streak against the 9 win streak and see who can make it work. but I genuinely believe that could be one of the best fights of the year. And then he moves on to bantamweight to potentially take a third belt, which we haven't seen, I believe, since John Jones, if I'm not mistaken. But we'll have to look into that a little bit more. But we got to take a break real quick, pay some bills. On the other side, we'll talk to our guy, Brandon Cobb, about the police and firefighters Olympics and the wrestling going on in that. This is the Early Bird Special at 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield. And don't forget, go follow us on social media as well. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. We're all over the place at the Early Bird Special. Like, you know, it's a special guest in Sparky's playing country music.
We got him.
Uh,
He said he's on the video, so
is he on the video? I'm not seeing him on video. I thought we had him over the phone.
no, I called him. He said he was on. Are you there, Brian? Yeah, I'm not
Nah,
here.
he's not here. We'll get him in there on phone real quick. We're going to talk to Brian Cobb. He's a Tulare County Fire Department. Firefighter from Exeter. He's taking place in the Police and Fire Olympics in the wrestling. In the wrestling game. He is.
All right, brother. We can't see you, so I'm just going to do it over the phone.
Sorry about
All right,
that.
hold on a
He is competing in the 79 kilograms or the 173 division. We got Brian Cobb on the line. Sir, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Oh, can't complain. Apologies about the video situation. I'm not sure what's going on with our system today, but it's just not liking me.
It's Monday.
It's a Monday. It's definitely a Monday. But let's talk about this, sir. How are you? How's the training going? And how are we looking for the competition?
Training's been going really well. I've been in the room at CSUB and a couple other places quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Really just kind of getting back to my roots, getting in and scrapping with guys. The only tricky thing is with air travel, and then obviously with this career, you go from being on shift, at work, and things are going on, and it's hard to maintain like control of your diet at times the way you want to. You're on an incident, you're there for 6 hours, they feed you, and they feed you what they're going to feed you. So we were on a call and we got like Whoppers and large fries for dinner. and you're hungry, and you're burning through some calories out there, working a fire. But so I got on the flight. Everything was kind of right about where I wanted it. This morning I woke up, I was supposed to be 1.5 pounds over, and I went over to the official scales, and I'm 3.5 over. And it's like, dude, these scales have been kind of bouncing around on us the last 4 days. So when you're cutting a lot of weight and you get that variability, it can mess with your mind a little bit. Like, oh man, like I try to be really precise. I try to be really dialed in with my weight cut, and to hear that was kind of disheartening. But I just want to get it done and go scrap. I just want to go slap hands, toe the line, and show what I'm capable of.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up. If you guys don't remember, Brian, the Bandit Cobb was a MMA fighter, a local fighter, and he's actually the reason I got into MMA fighting and watching it. And we've over the years, I think you finished with 20 wins. You had built a family. You were running businesses. You were helping out a lot of the amateur fighters. And over the years since you stepped away from the MMA fighting scene, you got into being a firefighter. So how did that story go?
My wife and I have 3 little girls, and I was teaching. I taught at Garces High School for a few years. I was their director of campus ministry. I taught physics, and then stepped away from that job to open up, a second bar. We had opened up the Well. There was like a live music venue, and then COVID happened. And so I went back to teaching, and I was teaching at St. John's Lutheran over on Buena Vista, a couple blocks from Stockdale High School. And I was there, and all my girls were at school with me. So I had a second grader, and 2 in the child care center. And then, this last year, 6th grader, 2nd grader, kindergartner. My 2nd grader, we found out she just needs a lot of help with schoolwork. She's dyslexic, dysgraphic, and she has a speech receptive disorder. And we tried to do this hybrid model of homeschool and on campus. And my wife was doing it, and she just said, I'm not good at this. It's not my wheelhouse. So I decided that instead of worrying about 25 other people's kids, I'd start to worry about my own. And so I had to have a career change in order to be able to be home with her. And my gig has me working 2 days on and 4 days off. So it's not always like as seamless as you'd hope, but it gives me the availability to be there to help her with her stuff. And I certainly miss St. John's, the school I was at. I certainly miss being on campus with my daughters. The kids, the faculty are great, but they've all been super supportive. And, no one's going to be like, oh, I can't believe you're a firefighter now. Like, how selfish.
Right.
So pretty good.
I've always been a big fan of you, brother. And you've always, whether it was opening a new business or just being, dad, you've always taken it and did your best 100% into everything you do. And so when I was messaging with you over the weekend, I saw that you were working with the firefighters, and then of course you bring up that you're getting back in and getting in some wrestling. So for who doesn't know what this police and fire games are, what is this, and how did you find your way back into the mat?
So when I graduated, one of my high school coaches is now a retired San Jose Fire Department captain, and I wrestled at Bellarmine Prep up in San Jose. So he came down to my graduation in his Class A's and was just so proud, and I was so pumped to see him and have him there. And he still wrestles. He helps coach at AK and all these things. And after I graduated, he walks up. He's like, "Well, now you got to wrestle." And he wrestled years ago, like 20 years ago, when the Police and Fire World Games were in LA. And so I looked at it, and so it's every 2 years. This year, there's over 14,000 athletes from over 70 countries competing in 63 different events over 10 days. It's every 2 years, so minus the COVID year where they did it once every 3 years, and they did it back-to-back years. It's been in Ireland, Canada, China, Australia, Mexico, now back to the U.S., but people from all over come out to this stuff, and these guys are, for the most part, all in really good shape still. They're in a profession where they need it, and they compete. And so we marched in opening ceremonies on Friday into Legacy Arena here at UAB to a completely packed arena. And it's just super cool. They have events going on every day, so many different sporting events to be at. There's a state level, and they have more of that with, they play cornhole, darts. I think they got some beer pong in there. National gets a little more serious, but the World Games is meant to mimic the Olympics. So, yeah, it's a pretty big ordeal. I didn't know going into it, but then I got here and got to see it firsthand. And I found out that I'm the first person from my department, from Tulare County, to ever represent the department at any of the three levels, state, national, or world. So pretty pumped, but I also want to do those guys back home proud.
That's awesome. Now, are you in the world area of this, or what division are you in?
I'm in the world. Yeah, I'm wrestling in the world championships.
That's really cool. Now, again, obviously, there's a little bit of a pride going against cops too, being a firefighter. Have you been on that side of the rivalry already?
I have not. So some of the guys were like, dude, like in the academy, like, dude, you've got to do the Battle of the Badges.
Right.
And I was like, all right. And then someone looked it up and they came back and they're like, you right there, that recruit, you are not allowed to do Battle of the Badges. I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I put my hands up, like, I'm innocent. I don't even know what you're talking about. And they're like, you've had like almost 40 pro fights, dude.
Right.
You're not allowed to go.
It's a little bit cheating,
box.
right? Everybody deserves a ringer.
Yeah.
Oh man,
So
that sucks.
I was told very quickly that I was not allowed to. So
I was going to be my next question. I was like, are we going to see at the Battle of the Badges too? Because that would have been really cool. But talking about your professional fights and stuff like that too, what is actually more difficult in your opinion? Has your MMA career kind of been more difficult, or has this really training for wrestling and getting ready for this been more difficult?
I think the training side of MMA is a lot more challenging because there's so many disciplines.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have a guy that's really strong where you're really weak, right?
Mm-hmm.
And wrestling, there's three facets: top, bottom, and neutral. You take some of that out of the equation when you do Olympic style wrestling like this. So, but wrestling is such like a big sport that's not at the professional level the way MMA is. So finding opportunities to wrestle is not real hard.
Mm-hmm.
At a world level, you're a little more challenging, but MMA is like, you're dealing with a lot of promoters and fight camps where it's like, hey, we don't want to fight him. He's a good wrestler. He's got this kind of record. And so being able to like actually land opportunities to wrestle is a lot easier. The multiple disciplines of MMA is a lot harder. But either way, you got to cut weight for both of them. And that just stinks.
Yeah.
Not fun. And I'm old, I'm old. And so it's harder on the body and, but I also don't want to be this like fine line. I don't want to be too small
Mm-hmm.
for a weight class and get kind of ragdolled, but I don't want to be at a weight class where I killed myself making weight, and now I wrestle lousy. So, just trying to find a happy medium and just go and want to lay it on the line, man. I would love to be the first to wrestle for represent Tulare County and the first to bring home a gold medal.
That would be awesome. I assume that's why you decided to take on the 79 kilogram area?
Yeah. And I mean, weigh-ins aren't until 3:00 today, wrestle Tuesday, Wednesday. So there is still a chance I might go to 86. We're going to maybe go to the gym, see what my weight's like, and, see how long it would take me to get a sweat. Cause I was pretty confident I was going to wake up at about a pound over, and I went to the official scales and they're way different than what we've been using. And that can be problematic at times.
So you can make that transition last second then?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
They want your money. They want your money either way. You got to register. You got to pay money. They'll take your money.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Is there any way to watch this live, or am I just waiting for you for updates?
I'm going to throw some updates out. We find out all that information at 3:00.
Beautiful.
We're using the same Boutwell Auditorium. It's the same place where they did judo and the jiu-jitsu competitions, and so those were both streamed. So it's a matter of our check-in at 3:00. We do a medical check, we do a weigh-in, and then we do a rundown of rules and other stuff. And so I'm hoping to find out info on the streaming then, and then I'm going to post it to social media.
Fantastic. And then real quick, before we let you go, have to get some self-indulgent questions because we are a sports show. We got to get your opinion on some things. As a former MMA guy, did you watch UFC 317 this weekend? Or were you too busy with that stuff?
The guy I'm with was like, dude, we got to watch this. Charles Oliveira, Ilya Topuria. And I was like, I don't know, man. I like Charles Oliveira. I really do. And he's like, no way, dude. And then as soon as Ilya knocks him out, he just looks at me and goes, I told you. But I'm excited. I think they're right. I think that next fight, him versus Paddy Pimblett, will be a barn burner. I think that's going to be a great fight. I think it'll do, record numbers in the box office, and it'll be exciting to watch.
And then last question for you, just because it's a fun one for me, and I love asking this, but as a combat sports guy, who is your Rushmore or top 5 of combat sports athletes? Can be across any board: wrestling, UFC, MMA, does not matter.
Marcelo Garcia, or excuse me, I'm going to go with Jean-Jacques Machado.
Okay.
He's a multi-degree black belt. He has he was born with like a disfigured hand. So he's got like a thumb and a pinky, and the dude is still a legend, makes no excuses, gets after it. Because I'm a wrestler, Randy Couture, he made the transition, fought at heavyweight, fought at light heavyweight, did great things. And then Lyoto Machida, because he introduced, successful karate into MMA.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, there's just so many people, so many guys. And then I think you can't have a Mount Rushmore without Fedor. Like, the dude is just still in conversations.
This is true. I think that's a good foursome right there. I like that. I mean, and all names that are deep cuts too. So, I mean, it's not your traditional, because every time I ask this question, especially the guys my age, you get the traditional, Conor McGregor's, John Jones, all those, which, don't get me wrong, I'm a massive John Jones fan. But when you take into account what other people have done for the industry and for the combat sports world in general, like, I think there needs to be way more names up on the list. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and almost that first Ultimate Fighter season, you kind of put a little pin in for all those guys. Like, what that Ultimate Fighter season did for the platform of MMA was huge. It was monumental. Like, without that show, without that Forrest Griffin, Stephan Bonner fight, I don't know that the sport is where it is now.
I have to agree with you. But thank you so much for your time, my friend. We really appreciate it. Good luck, and we hope to hear from you soon.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much for your time and for even considering having this old guy on your show. I appreciate it.
Anything for the Bandit. Check him out. It's Bandit Cobb MMA on all social media, and we'll get back to him later after we find out how quick he won these matches Tuesday and Wednesday. But we also got some breaking news. My Dolphins finally traded Ramsey. We'll get into that and much more right after the break. The early bird special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Happy birthday, Mike. Another video game. It's actually Mike Tyson's birthday.
60.
60 years old.
There's a birthday with Cody Rhodes, who is 40 today.
We'll talk about his last opponent too, who just won his last fight this weekend as Jake Paul ends up beating a former world champion over the weekend.
But breaking news, the Miami Dolphins have traded three-time Pro Bowler Jalen Ramsey to the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they haven't really put out much on the trade, except that the Steelers are adding $1.5 million to his contract, which will get him around $26.6 million.
I would assume that means they're taking the entirety of his contract, and another addition to the Pittsburgh Steelers that interesting to say the very least. I don't know. Do you think this helps them at all make that push once again?
No,
I don't think so either.
no, but it's another ex-Dolphin that's in Pittsburgh,
This
so
is true.
you can team up with Minka Fitzpatrick.
However, that means that there's going to be a good lump sum of money that's going to be allocated to somebody else in Miami. So who do you think it's going to?
Well, hopefully they get another corner because we definitely need some corner help. But I would
Joey
expect
Porter's son.
I would expect Jonu's contract to get signed hopefully by the end of the day. But we'll see because the details haven't came out. He's actually broke his own story on his Twitter. He said, "I'll break it then, if no one else is going to say it." And he posted a video of him working out with Steelers gear on.
Oh Lord, leave it to Ramsey to take it upon himself to tell the world that he's been traded. I'm sure he's super excited to be out of Miami too, because the relationship between him and Coach McDaniel spoiled at some point last year. Not sure exactly where it did. Probably about the same time McDaniels called out Tyreek Hill as well for being the highest paid player on the team and not doing anything.
I would expect, being here for 2 or 3 years and 2 or 3 different coordinators.
Yeah, that too.
That doesn't feel like a veteran would want.
No. And honestly, again, if you need a team to be the pinnacle of consistency and not have that as an issue, Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh. I'm sorry. That's the only team that hasn't gotten a new head coach in over a decade. I don't know exactly what else you need there, but I think this is an interesting pickup for them. And honestly, if you got any corner out of this, it would be great for you in terms of being Miami, especially when it comes to the money allocation part of all of it. I would hope you got somebody at least like Joey Porter Jr. Highly doubt though. We would have probably heard
hopefully been the headline. But
I know, but I mean, you never know. More about this will come out here in the upcoming hours, really. And honestly, and if they didn't trade Joey Porter Jr., now I'm sitting here thinking about it, that might be a great veteran presence to teach that guy how to be one of the best corners in the league.
We'll have Porter Jr., Minka,
and knowing how the Porter family is, he's going to be absorbing everything he can from Jalen like a sponge. So this might be the best career move for Joey Porter Jr., let alone Jalen Ramsey. But we got to take a quick break, pay some bills. On the other side, NBA free agency starts today, so we'll give you an update on all the deals and trades that have already been announced over the weekend. Plus, we still got to get into the Jake Paul fight and WWE Night of Champions, as well as what you'll see tonight on Raw, live from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, believe it or not. And everything's coming out of Pittsburgh, Sparky. I don't know what's going on, but that's just sports town today. At this point, though, you are listening to the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield. And again, don't forget, go follow us on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch. We're all over the place. Just look for the Early Bird Special logo. You can't miss it, but we will be right back. And welcome back. Early Bird Special Hour 2.
I wonder if that story is real. Who posted that?
ESPN.
Really?
They just said it over the airwaves.
I didn't hear Minka in it.
Oh, yeah. No, they said it over the airwaves right as we went to break.
That would be
We
insane.
figured it out. Minka Fitzpatrick is
I will
headed
take
back
it.
to Miami.
I will take it. You know, he had a bad attitude when we drafted him, but it was because we wanted to play him at corner.
Right.
And he said, I'm a safety. And if you aren't going to play me at safety, then trade me. And he was traded. But this was before the McDaniel days. So we will see what we will see. And some other breaking news, not as big as, of course, Dolphins football. Duh.
Naturally.
But the WNBA has now announced it is expanding to 18 teams over the next 5 years, adding Cleveland in 2028, Detroit in 2029, and Philadelphia in 2030.
I mean, great. But again, look, man, I'm all for it, but I'm kind of on the same side as Cameron Brink here. I say you need to build some allure around your rosters and what you have already.
And it says Toronto and Portland will join in 2025.
Yes, Toronto's already been announced. I didn't realize Portland was around the corner as well, but yeah, I knew those teams were coming. Eventually, what they want to do is obviously get a team in dang near every city that the NBA has a team in, and it's possible. But I think you need to build up your rosters a little bit more first, make it a little bit more illustrious to be on these teams, and then grow into what is hopefully going to be a 24 to 30 team league that can make some good money, especially for these female athletes. But that's just my personal opinion. I know there's been a handful of players that have been on both sides of this issue. And it's cool to see teams like the Valkyrie, because I really enjoy seeing teams out of Golden State play like they have. But it obviously more teams coming in like Toronto and Portland are going to bring out some more excitement in the league and at least get more eyes on it. But I feel like if you just increase the roster sizes a little bit more, threw a couple more players in on this, especially with the amount of money that you made, because it's already been announced that every team, their net worth is now double what it was a year ago. Thank you, Caitlin Clark. But it's true.
No, I just finally found the
the Minka Patriot. I'm telling you, dude. Going back to this whole NFL trade that just broke, because
it was John who was included.
John who's included as well.
Yeah, it was Ramsey and John.
More about why don't just release the whole thing?
Right. So the Dolphins trade Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith, and the Dolphins get Minka and a late round draft pick.
Jeez, OP. I mean, well, I guess if you're Miami, that's a good thing because you don't have to pay Ramsey anymore and you no longer have to pay Jonnu. And if you're a Steeler fan, you're happy because Arthur Smith gets his tight end back and you get a corner. So
now we have money.
Yeah, you have money to allocate towards somebody else. Go find a tight end or a corner. I mean,
I know there's been talks of some other tight end help, so we'll see.
I mean,
but look, it's the NFL trying to take over NBA free agency day. So.
Of course, they have to throw their.
They got my attention
somewhere. Maybe that's why Jalen was so mad that it hadn't been announced yet, because the NFL told him, "Wait, we're gonna wait till Monday."
But I knew Minka had an attitude when Miami drafted him in the first place. He was upset because he wanted to play safety. And with Miami letting Javon Holland go this offseason, it only fits Minka at safety. Let's see how this guy reacts, because I know he was unhappy. He didn't want, as well as another Dolphin corner, which I forgot was the guy that they had last year that didn't want Rodgers in Pittsburgh. I'm surprised that he's not traded in that package, but we'll see what we'll see. But Minka's a stud when he can keep his mouth shut. So we'll see how he will fit in that Miami defense, and clearing up $25 million will help a team, especially going a week or two before camp starts.
Yeah, but how is this going to affect your offense at the same time? Because let's not forget that Jonnu Smith was a very big target for Tua, and arguably the most consistent as well throughout the entire season. Although Waddle, I still believe that Jalen Waddle can be that guy.
He will.
I just don't know if Tyreek Hill being there at the same time is going to benefit him, because again, they're pretty much, I should say they're the same player, but they play very similarly.
Well, Jonnu was open because that's when Tyreek came back.
Right.
And they
he
had
soaked
to
up all
double.
the attention.
They were doubling it up. So, Tyreek's still here. So we'll see if another tight end can step in.
I don't know. Jonnu has a great mind for the game and obviously knows how to get open as a tight end. And that, I think, is one of the biggest things that Arthur Smith realizes, especially in the offense that they're going to be running in Pittsburgh. It's a lot of misdirection and rolls and stuff like that.
And see, can Rodgers roll?
That's my biggest concern.
The big question.
That's what, but honestly, even if it's just a 2-3 step roll and he throws the ball right after that, that's all you really need. He doesn't have to roll all the way out of the pocket, but you just have to be able to set yourself up in a way that you can use these play actions to your benefit and get guys like Jonnu Smith open, because I'm going to tell you right now, that's going to be Aaron's best friend. Him and Jonnu Smith and Aaron Rodgers this is going to be the first tight end that Aaron can trust fully since Finley back in Green Bay Packer days. That's saying something, because that was way before that as well. This is going to be a good fit for Pittsburgh is all I'm saying.
Well, we'll keep you posted. I'm sure some more will come out in the next hour or so. But with the NBA, the deadline yesterday was for players to lock in or decline the option. LeBron, obviously the big name that actually accepted the player option. But I know his agency was saying that they're keeping an eye on what the Lakers are doing.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Because he wants to be a championship team. And I want to bring this up just because I heard 2 rumors this morning that he is unhappy and that he doesn't plan on staying with the Lakers this season. But that could just be stirring the pot. Obviously, you want to say that because you want, them to do something.
And you need talking points.
But when you're maxing out, when you're making $52.6 million, and you got Luka here in a month that's going to be, option to max out his deal.
Mm-hmm.
You guys really don't open up very many doors when you're paying, LeBron and Luka. But when I was reading this morning, there was a lot of NBA talk during this Unsportsmanlike this morning, and they were talking about the chance that LeBron to Dallas is the recent buzz over the weekend, that Evan Cohen, who joined us last Friday, and was saying that not only was Dallas mentioned, but Cleveland. And Cleveland, which he was saying that was unlikely because of what they would have to get rid of just to have, to rent LeBron for a year or two.
Mm-hmm. I don't think Cleveland's willing to make that purchase again. Not after last time.
And it mentioned Garland and a couple other guys that was like, no, it's probably not going to work.
No. And honestly, like I said, if they ever could convince LeBron just to come back as a free agent and sign a
friendly deal.
Yeah, a friendly deal, team friendly. I wouldn't say a vet minimum because that's ridiculous. But if you can get him to take like a $20 million deal or something like that for his last year, I could see him coming back for one final run with Cleveland. But it's not going to be for a trade. Cleveland is not going to go out of their way to trade for a guy like LeBron James when you have a very deep roster already built right now that just needs a little bit more time to get used to playing with each other. And you're making roster moves right now, making moves for Lonzo Ball, which, I mean, me and you talked about that over the weekend, and I'm not exactly enthused about the move, but it is what it is. And LeBron to Dallas, though, is an interesting thought. And obviously there's a lot of allure there with 2 of his favorite teammates being there, and Kyrie and Anthony Davis. Plus you have Cooper Flag there, who obviously is going to be interesting to play with regardless, if they don't have to give up Cooper Flag in order to get LeBron.
What would they have to give up?
Could you imagine if Nico Harrison makes a trade for LeBron James after trading away Luka Doncic?
Yeah, and then teaming them up back with AD?
Again, the stupidity of that man knows no bounds, but it just would baffle me if we see another dumb move like that from Nico Harrison. I don't believe the reports, though, that LeBron is unhappy in LA. I really don't. I think this is the media stirring stuff up like they usually do, just to create talking points during a flat line of sport. And to be honest, there's no reason to believe that LeBron is angry with LA, especially if he accepted his player option. He could have said no. If he didn't want to be there, he could have said no and left.
I was surprised he did.
That's what I honestly thought about you immediately when I saw the story, because we talked about it last week and you had made the comment, and you're right for saying it, but he very rarely does take the player option. He usually says no so they can restructure the contract, make it long-term or longer term with more money, much like Kyrie did with Dallas. And that's why I don't believe it. I think that the media is trying to stir something up, especially with the new ownership for the Lakers. And we don't know exactly what his relationship is with Walter, and rather than the Buss family, even though Jeannie's not going anywhere from the Lakers, from what the Lakers have said, she's there for the foreseeable future. I also think that he is so focused on helping get the Lakers together and create a championship team there. If it doesn't work and halfway through the season they sign Luka to a max contract and they're like,
This is our future.
10 and 30 and it's just not working, then I can see I could see LeBron James saying, okay, maybe this isn't it. Yeah, maybe I need to get out of here to help you guys build something around Luka. But I don't see it really making a lot of sense that LeBron accepts his player option. They're looking for a center that would work really well with him and Luka together, but LeBron's unhappy there. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I feel like that's just much like we hear from the media all the time. Oh, LeBron's not happy because they're not winning. Okay, no player is happy because they're not winning.
They went out of their way to get you Luka.
Exactly.
And he's making weight, and
they're making strides together. You got the coach you want.
Unless something crazy happens,
yeah.
I wouldn't expect him. I mean, say you are Nico, or and you see the option of getting Cooper and throwing him in with Luka in a younger, refreshed Laker team with the new owner. Do you take that?
I don't think I do. To be honest with you, if I am Nico Harrison and I'm serious about creating a defensive-minded team that is going to win championships, and that's what he said, that he wants a defensive-minded team, I don't think you go trade for a guy like LeBron. LeBron is not known for being a defensive-minded guy, although, yes, he's got the chase down blocks, and when he wants to play defense, he could be a really good defender. But he doesn't want to play defense all the time, much like the majority of these stars don't want to play defense anymore.
No, we've seen crazier things out of this guy. So.
This is true, but honestly, I think with the roster you have right now in Dallas, as crazy as it seems to me to say, you're actually okay. And you could save your job if you just don't be an idiot.
Yeah, shut up.
The NBA bailed you out, dude. It genuinely did. It saved your job. So I would shut up and just roll with what you got. And honestly, if the conspiracy is right and the NBA had anything to do with the Luka trade and we find that out years down the line that they influenced this, then so be it. And I'll take back everything I said about Nico. But until that becomes true, it's your fault. You traded away the most beloved player in Dallas at the time, and why the fan base hates your guts and probably will continue to hate your guts until you're fired. But I'm not going to lie, looking at the roster, at least the starting five, on paper,
yeah, you don't need a LeBron.
Looks pretty.
Yeah, you don't need LeBron.
You don't need LeBron. You got Kyrie, you got Clay, you got Cooper, you got Anthony Davis, and you got Lively. You don't need LeBron.
But we'll take a break. We'll get into some other players that took the option, maybe got a couple extensions and a couple trades over the weekend right here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM.
So it's updated. It's Minka and a 5th rounder in 2027 to Miami. And the Steelers get Jonnu, Ramsey, and a 2027 7th rounder.
NFL trades are wild, aren't they? But again, we were talking about this during the draft.
I wonder how much
Third-
money. Is it
I'm
13?
trying to figure that out right now. Yeah, it's about 13 mil in a cap hit right now, I think.
Jonnu?
Oh no! I'm sorry. I was looking at Jalen. Let's see. Jalen's contract in terms of a cap hit. I don't think this is right though. I'm seeing this is about $4 million this year for the.
But I
for the
wonder if that
Steelers.
changes because it's post June 1st.
That's possible. Again, I don't know. I'll look into it a little bit more tonight and get a better answer for you tomorrow. But it's going to be saving a lot of money for the Dolphins. I'm seeing a $7 million cap hit, 7.5 for the Steelers next year for owning Jalen, but I don't know if that's right. I feel like it's a little bit more than that
Because
but-
they just restructured too.
Exactly.
So I wonder if that bonus or the added $1.5 million helps. But over the weekend, we saw not only the LeBron, but the Thunder extend Jalen Williams on a 3-year deal. Bobby Portis re-signed with the Bucks on a 3-year deal. The Rockets locking up Jabari Smith Jr. on a 5-year. And then James Harden re-signed with the Clippers on a 2-year deal after declining his option.
Amongst a handful of trades, because I know that Colin Sexton was traded for Nurkic, I believe. So the Hornets will now have a solid combo guard, and the I apologize. The Jazz will pick up another solid center that has yet to really come into his own. I've been waiting for that guy to actually step up over the last couple of years, but he has faded out, unfortunately.
I saw Eric Gordon declined his player option from the Sixers.
Doesn't really surprise me
surprise.
at all, but he will most likely try to restructure that contract and maybe return to Philadelphia. I'm not sure if there's a lot of people trying to buy Eric Gordon right now.
But the Bulls and the Cavs, the trade with that sent Lonzo from Chicago, the injury-prone Lonzo, over to Cleveland.
Great.
What is your thoughts on that trade?
I love Isaac Okoro. I loved Isaac Okoro. I was so mad when I saw this trade come across my phone. I immediately texted you and I said, y'all better take care of my boy, because the kid from Auburn, man, I mean, mind you, he's a defensive-minded player. D&3 is the best way to put it, because he can shoot three-pointers for you, and he loves them from the corner. He just wasn't fitting with the style of play, though, that Cleveland was headed towards, unfortunately. And I think Lonzo is, because Cleveland wants to get a little bit quicker and have a combo guard style guy that they can just trust to bring up the ball, especially since Ty Jerome looks like he will not be re-signing with the Cleveland Cavaliers because he's asking for too much money, or at least for Cleveland to handle. So this may fill that void for Cleveland and put a guard where they needed it. So that's probably the actual mindset around the move. I'm not crazy about it for the simple fact of what you just said, Sparky. He is injury prone. The kid cannot stay on the court, has not been able to stay on the court since he's been drafted. And to be honest with you, I've never been a fan. Never been a Lonzo guy. Never been a ball guy. I don't care. Not that I don't care for them as people. I'm sure they're great. But as a basketball player, I've never really seen the allure of Lonzo Ball, or his brother LaMelo for that matter. I know LaMelo's had flashes of looking like a really good point guard, but even he has just phased out of the NBA. He really isn't talked about much anymore, especially on a team like Charlotte. And Lonzo coming into Cleveland, I mean, I guess the positive of all of this is that he's going to score about as much as Isaac did. Is he going to play defense as good as Isaac did? No. And that's what's going to really falter you if you're Cleveland, because I genuinely believe when it came down to hitting the pavement and who was going to guard the guy and that scoring on you, Isaac Okoro was the best one to throw on him. So I personally think Cleveland takes a hit for this. But all I've seen from pundits is that, this could be a really good trade for Cleveland if Lonzo can stay healthy. If Lonzo can stay healthy, being the key point there. And yet to be proven if he can have an entire season in the NBA. So I'm not crazy about the trade, but that's just my personal opinion.
I was just happy Lonzo was out.
I know.
That's all I cared about. And I don't know much about the Cavs guy.
Oh,
so
you'll trust me. You'll like this
I'll
guy.
know.
He'll probably be the backup for Josh Giddey for you. if not like a wing player that you'll lean on a little bit. But if you look at all the pieces that Chicago has been able to pull in since the dismantling of that team a couple years ago with DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine and I believe Vukovic was on the team at that point, they've pulled in quite a bit, or quite a interesting core of young players that can help them turn this around. So I think you guys might look better next year than you looked this year.
I sure hope so.
So
Just got to get over Miami.
well, and especially with all of the injuries going on in the East, though, and the uncertainty of Giannis being on the Bucks, nobody knows exactly how the East is going to go next year. Rightfully so. I still don't know if Cleveland's really going to come back and be the team that you saw last year, especially after losing so handedly to the Pacers. And the Pacers themselves aren't going to be the same team because you're going to be playing without Tyrese Halliburton, your best player, all next year. So if you're a team like Chicago or Miami or Atlanta, you better be looking to just come out swinging. If I were you, I would take the in-season tournament as your first stepping stone. Win that, baby. Prove to yourself and to the rest of the league that you can win something, and then run right into this playoffs, hopefully as a top 4 to 5 team.
Give me some hope.
I'm just saying.
That's all I need.
This is the perfect year for teams like Chicago and Atlanta and all that to make that step into the next level, because Boston's going to be held down. Or Indiana's going to be held down. We still don't know what's going on with Cleveland or the Knicks because the Knicks can't find a coach. I mean, we have no idea what the East is going to look like. The only team, in my opinion, that looks like they're going to be anywhere as good as last year, if not better, is Orlando. And that's because they made a very good trade, in my opinion, for Desmond Bane. That's it. That's the only team in the East that I can honestly say has a chance to at least look as good as they did this year.
And we'll know as soon as it hits 3:00, because I'm sure we're gonna hit some big signings here today as the free agency opens. But one thing that we did talk to Evan Cohen on Friday, but Ace Bailey
showed up to work.
He did show up.
He showed up to work yesterday. Actually, he showed up early.
I believe he said 80-20, which was what?
It was a fair bet.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm going to lean on, I think that we're blaming the wrong person here. I don't think Ace is a bad kid, although it's going to be unfair that he has this moniker over him for the rest of his career, most likely, because he is going to be seen as that kid who almost said no to the first top 5 teams. But honestly, I don't think it's him. I think the kid wants to play basketball. I think he genuinely just wants to focus on being a better player. I think it's his representation.
Yep.
We talked about it with Nico Iamaleava, the quarterback that's now playing for UCLA. Your representation can kill you. And I genuinely believe take it from the guy who just got traded to Chicago, Isaac Okoro, who was the last guy who was represented by this guy. Get rid of him. Like, you should take that as an example. If Isaac's not with him anymore, something went on down the line where Isaac figured something out where it was a bad match. And I genuinely believe, Ace Bailey, you're in the same situation, my boy. Get rid of your representation because they're not making it any better for you. But I'm just glad he showed up to Utah. What are your thoughts?
I wasn't surprised. And, the interviews I saw of him over the weekend, he seemed to be happy. And he said he wants to play basketball. And that's what you want in a, top 5, top 10 draft pick. You don't want added drama, especially after the clip when he was picked. That's probably going to follow him until at least he can shake it off. And yeah, I mean, we've talked about that in a lot of sports. It's the representation that the people you surround yourself with. And I mean, I wish him the best, and hopefully he can have a solid career in Utah.
That's what I'm saying. And I believe Ryan Smith is the best owner to be able to turn Ace's entire mentality around on the state of Utah. He's done it with multiple other players. The players that are playing there currently love playing there. They want to stay there. And honestly, I don't think they're done. I think they make a move at some point in this free agency market to pick up a shooting guard to potentially fill out this starting 5. Ace may not even be a starter. He may be coming off the bench, to be honest with you, if you look at their roster and how they're built right now. So at this point, I think that you're just take it with a grain of salt. I would chalk it up to really bad representation for Ace Bailey. and just work on creating a good personal relationship between Ryan Smith and Ace Bailey. Make a good personal relationship between the owner of the team and the future star of the team. That's all you have to worry about right now for the Utah Jazz.
Well, we'll take our break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the Paul fight. We'll talk about Clash of Champions. We'll talk about, I'm going to continue to call that. Is it
Night of Champions?
So the Clash one is now with the NXT?
No, Clash at the Castle is now Clash in Paris.
Okay.
Which they announced.
I just saw the promo
weekend.
this morning. That's why it's stuck in my head.
That's probably why you're getting the two mixed up. But no, Clash in Paris is the one that is coming up, I believe, in the next couple months for the first time in Paris. It's usually in Scotland.
And I did see that they announced Royal Rumble is going to be in Saudi Arabia.
They did. And honestly, again, this is where I believe that you're going to see Sami Zayn finally get that shot at the world title, most likely against Gunther, since apparently, much like Lyra Valkyria, the WWE can't figure out who Sami can beat for a belt except Gunther. We could figure out better storylines for him. I swear.
You can hear the fire in the Burdick. We'll talk about that and much more right after this break on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. All right, you can't play Ice Cube without me vibing to it for a second. This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. And real quick, before we get out of the NBA, just because I'm very curious about your thoughts on this too, and when I saw this extension, I wanted to talk about today, but we got to talk about this Houston Rockets extension of Jabari Smith. 5 years, $100+ million, 122 to be exact. Do we have the fight from Sean? We still have that. I want to hear what his thoughts are on this too, because I have my own. But I kind of felt like it was going this way after the Jalen Green trade in general. But let's hear from Sean here real quick, if we can, about this Jabari Smith extension.
A burgeoning, rising contender, Jabari Smith Jr. He is the first rookie extension guy done. He's signing a 5-year, $122 million deal. He's the only player from that 2022 draft class to have 2,500 points and 1,500 rebounds. They really believe in his ability, so much so they held him out of any Kevin Durant trade conversations. They landed Kevin Durant anyway.
So that's kind of what I was wanting to bring up, especially to you, Spark, is that Houston has moved forward with this entire idea. I believe they are putting forward all effort into this Jabari Smith Sengun pairing down low and moving into hopefully finding a better guard combo, something that maybe will work with what they have right now. But Kevin obviously coming in is going to boost their abilities on offense a little bit. Do you think that Jabari Smith is worth putting forward that kind of effort, though? Because as I said during the playoffs, Jabari was one of those players, much like Jalen, that non-existent. Didn't really make that much of an impact on the game. Sengun, I could see you saying that. And Thompson, I could see you saying that. They make impacts on the game. But Jabari, to me, at least outside of regular season play, he has been stellar. But when it comes down to, if we're going to falter Jalen Green for not stepping up during the playoff, should we not put Jabari in the same boat?
I would definitely put him in the same boat, but having somebody like Durant come over, and I think that'll only help him as his growth. But we'll see, because I thought for sure he was going to be included in that Durant trade. And they did come out over the weekend and said, no, that's why we kept him, because we were already working on a deal. And, it's going to be a different Houston team, because I was also thinking that Harden was coming.
Yeah, honestly,
I thought for sure he was coming.
In the back of my head, I was sitting there saying, "Well, watch James and Russell say, you know what? What about a reunion in Houston? We all liked playing there. Why don't we all just go to Houston for a year and see if we can't make it happen?"
And within that 20-minute span over the weekend, Harden took his deal. And as soon as I read the headline, it said Harden declined option. I was like, okay, he's going to Houston for sure. And then 15 minutes later, he had signed. So I was like, okay, well, what are they doing? And sure enough, they locked in Jabari, which is a good deal to lock him in that long for absolutely. Now, because that is going to only get a hefty cost in a year or so. But I think they see something in him that they think he can get over the hump in the playoffs, and hopefully a Durant veteran presence will help him.
Well, this is just an odd move to me, because the NBA is such a guard-driven league now that moving on from the guard with the high ceiling of potential for the big man with a pretty high ceiling of potential as well. I'm not saying Jabari doesn't have a potential to be one of the better big men in the league. He really does, if he could figure it out offensively. And honestly, Kevin Durant might be a great vet to come in and teach him how to play in a different style to help make that happen. But I don't know. It's a weird move to me. The more and more I thought about it, I was like, Houston is willing to put all the money forward for Jabari that they like. Jalen, same situation a couple years ago when he made his extension, but it was odd to me to see an NBA team move with a big man rather than the guard option. So it was just a small thought that I had to get your opinion on.
And
as well.
I was reading over the weekend after that Russell Westbrook could be headed to Houston.
I mean, that's always on the table. Russ at this point, I as much as I love Russell Westbrook, it's ring chasing. I mean, I know we talked about it with LeBron when he had his comments.
I'd rather see him with the Lakers.
Yeah. I mean, again, it could happen as well. It's one of those situations where that's what you're here for. That's why I don't understand LeBron coming out now saying, "Oh, ring culture doesn't make sense to me." It's like, what are you talking about, dude? You're at the epicenter of ring
He
culture.
created it.
I wouldn't say he created it. I'm not going to go as
would.
far as say that, because let's be honest, ring culture's always been the culture. Because if you want to go down the line, what was the one thing that Shaq and Charles and everybody give grief to every player if you have or have not won a ring? That's ring culture.
Ring chasing.
No, I understand, but he's talking about ring culture.
Yeah, I'm talking about the ring chasing because that
And I
after
still
the Miami thing, I've never seen a player like that since that time going into it. I never seen anybody make a spectacle of joining a team.
100%, but I wouldn't necessarily say.
But every athlete is going to be chasing a
Right.
title. That's the whole reason of being a professional athlete.
Right.
But just seeing the spectacle of what he
LeBron
created,
made it out of it. No, absolutely. He's the first one to do that. 100%. I will never say that's different. But the one to say he was the one who started ring chasing,
if you're
not
not chasing a
necessarily.
ring, then you're in the
wrong
profession.
industry. It's just like
Exactly.
WWE. If you ain't chasing the belt, what are you here for? You know what I mean? Like, that's why I don't get why people don't understand ring culture or ring chasing. It's the whole point of being a professional athlete. But and that's why I don't falter guys like Russell Westbrook, because that's the one thing that's really holding him back from being a first ballot Hall of Famer is the fact he hasn't won a ring. Much like Charles, we love Charles Barkley. Never won a ring, though. So that's the one gripe against his career. And although he says probably he does not care if he won or not, yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
you
wouldn't
do.
have been a Houston Rocket with Clyde the Glide if you weren't chasing it.
Exactly. And that's my point. And that's why it's like to say LeBron started ring chasing, no. But to say he's not at the epicenter of ring culture, yeah, you are, dude. Your entire career is based on it. Just by being a professional athlete in general, your entire life is based around rings. Much like a football player, your entire life is based around that Lombardi trophy. There is nothing else on the planet you want more than that Lombardi trophy. So that's why I will never falter a player for doing what he needs to do to win a ring. Outside of Kevin Durant, because you joining the Golden State Warriors was just blech. But that's just my personal opinion.
What about the Paul fight? I didn't catch this one.
So I got to watch the highlights of it. I didn't get to watch it either, but I was very curious just because obviously we talked about it last week a little bit and we didn't get into the conversation that I wanted to, but the entire idea that Jake Paul is now the major draw of boxing and what does that mean for the sport? I mean, I personally have no issue with Jake Paul being a draw for boxing because it's a draw for boxing. At any point in time, boxing getting the limelight is a good thing in my opinion, especially since it's a sport that has one of the longest histories in America and is one of those that you really don't want to see die. But he took on Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., a 39-year-old former world champion, won the fight. I was able to watch a rewind of it and watch the majority of it. From what I saw, he controlled the game or the fight for the first 5-6 rounds. Back 4 was pretty much controlled by Chavez, went by unanimous decision. And to be honest with you, even Chavez at the end of the fight, they asked him, is he ready? What do you think of Jake? Chavez even conceded, said he's a good fighter. Is he ready for the champions? Probably not, but he's a good fighter. He said like in the first 4 or 5 rounds, pretty strong fighter. After that, he got really tired and I was able to control the fight. So it's like, it's one of those situations where he's gaining respect in the game, I think, especially from these guys who he's beating. And it's like, granted, he's only fought in like older fighters, 39 years old, still not the peak of where you want to be fighting, especially since you're 28. But Jake Paul came out, called out everybody. He wants every champion, of course. He wants it all. Totally understand that. But him being the draw of boxing, I don't think is anybody's fault except boxing itself.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a problem with Jake Paul being the draw of your sport, start drawing people.
Yeah, step up.
When people like Ryan Garcia are the biggest draw of boxers and they don't have the best name to them or at least reputation, it hurts you. We all love Canelo, but we know Canelo's not exactly going to be here for the rest of our lives. He's on the way out of his career and most likely he'll be headed to the WWE from what I understand.
Of course.
So if Canelo's open to, fighting in the WWE or at least doing that entire spiel, why would he not be okay with a fight with Jake Paul at the end of his career too? You know what I'm saying? Whereas if the money is all you need, then I say go with the fight. But at this point right now, I feel like Jake is gaining respect within the game, which is a good thing for his career. Will he ever gain the respect? No, probably not, just because of who he is. But this fight was a really fun one to watch. Honestly, it's a great boxing fight for anybody who's a fan. Went the entire 10, and Jake earned the win at the end of it all. We'll talk to actually one of the boxers that was on the undercard here later this week or next week. Hopefully, I have to reach out to him and figure out a good day. But it is, in my opinion, a huge win for him, a huge win in terms of gaining respect in the game. And even if you hate on Jake Paul, you have to give him respect and say he's trying, he's taking it seriously. And if he is the lone draw of boxing, then if you don't like
can't blame
that,
him.
yeah, then I'm sorry. I don't know exactly what you're mad about. He's just drawing eyes to your sport and keeping it alive. And if you can't do it yourself, that's on you, man. We just talked about how the UFC could benefit from learning something from the WWE in their promos and building up, allure to their fights.
Maybe boxing needs to do the same.
Exactly my thought.
Well, we'll get into the WWE PLE over the weekend, and we'll wrap up the show right here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back. Final segment of the day here on the Early Bird Special. Thanks for joining us. Join us back here tomorrow, 7 to 9. As always, we'll give you an update on what's going on in the NBA free agency market right now. We'll also talk to our guy, 24 kg, as we do every Tuesday. Give you your Raw recap and your wrestling recap of the week. His thoughts on Night of Champions, as well as Saturday night's main event, coming up in about 2 weeks, I believe, July 12th, if I'm not
I
mistaken,
believe
somewhere in
it's
that area.
the same weekend as Evolution.
Yes, I believe. Well, actually, I don't know if Evolution is that weekend or not. I still haven't figured that out because they really haven't built that up very much since the Liv Morgan injury and the Nikki Bella appearance on Raw. Really haven't seen much about it. Maybe we'll hear a little bit more tonight as they are going to be live from Pittsburgh, PA. But let's talk about Night of Champions live from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia over the weekend, where I am very, very, very happy that nobody was harmed or nothing major happened outside of some long layaways at the airport, apparently. But what were your thoughts, my friend?
I mean, I enjoyed it. There was a couple matches I wasn't as big, and yeah, it's gonna be the Sunday after.
Is it?
We had a text in that and kind of almost agreed with me, but he said I liked Rhea, Jade, and Cody winning. The Sammy versus Cross match was garbage.
Yep.
Was hoping that the Bloodline story would die, but no, it's back in full force. Best part of the PLE was Charles Robinson running down to the ring and getting knocked out by Cena, which was a good part.
If that man does not get put into the WWE Hall of Fame, Charles Robinson is the greatest WWE referee ever. That man takes more bumps and more like real hits than anybody I've ever seen on television, and deserves all the respect in the world
And
from
a
everybody.
big collector.
Absolutely. He's great, dude. He's so fun to watch. But I have to agree with that too. I think that obviously the matches we got, John and CM Punk went the exact way we thought it was going to. We even got the fake cash in that we just talked about with Charles getting shoulder checked by John Cena. But what I thought was interesting, if you noticed, they're dropping little eggs here and there, little hints that John is turning again.
Yeah.
They are like, he's listening to the fans. He's not using low ball tactics to win matches.
He's going to hit the guy with the
belts and all that type of stuff. Like, and honestly, we saw it here in Bakersfield. That I don't think it was televised, but we did see it where we gave him thank you Cena chance on the way out, and he stopped and acknowledged us, even to the point where Logan Paul had to look at him and say, "What are you doing? Let's go." Like, again, now mind you, part of the story I realized, but there may well be a double turn coming at SummerSlam.
I hope so.
Honestly, we may get the Cody Lander turn. I don't know if he loses the belt though. Here's my thing. I think John holds on to this belt genuinely until December. I think you give him a year run, much like you've given a lot of these other guys.
So is that what we're gonna see is Cena and Cody
Probably
again at SummerSlam?
More than likely, yeah. Because that's what, unless for some reason the WWE decides they want to do Cody and Gunther. But I highly doubt that's going to be the case. I think it's going to be built up where it's Cody against John. Something happens to Cody at SummerSlam that finally turns him heel.
And see, I thought for some reason that they were going to stretch that one until, the end of the year.
Probably. But again, that's what I'm saying is that like SummerSlam is when they're supposed to get these matches, because I know that's when they're going to do Tiffy and Jade. Which we'll get into with KG tomorrow. I think that was probably one of the best Jade Cargill matches I've seen her in the WWE period. And this buildup of the homegrown Tiffy against the major acquisition of Jade is going to be a major storyline going forward into SummerSlam. But we'll get that done tomorrow. But I genuinely, the PLE was,
and it's gonna be
solid.
Seth and CM Punk again.
Yep, again and again. That's already been brewing though. Like that, I knew was gonna happen. But my biggest gripe against the PLE, and I'm glad I'm not the only one. I know you've said this too, and the texter has said it. Karrion and Sammy's match was great until the end. I don't understand why the WWE is just so bent set on taking the fan favorites and ripping them out of the situations that fans want to see them in. LA Knight has this problem as well. And for the WWE to end it like that, like when Karrion was just the entire match beating up Sammy, beating him up to the point where it was almost a bloody just bath right in the middle of the ring. And then you get one haluva kick and, oh no, he wins. It's like, what? Are we serious?
It was a
Like,
horrible ending.
I don't understand why it was ended that way. I don't think this feud is over, though. I genuinely do not. I think Karrion is going to probably be around Sammy's corner for a while, but it just the way they ended that in Saudi Arabia was bunk, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I did not like.
I didn't
that.
like that one. I loved. I think the best match I think was the Rhea and Raquel match, but I mean, just the going through the tables and I mean, even SmackDown, which I didn't catch until Sunday morning.
Mhm.
And we have to give a big shout out to everyone that came out for the Battle of the Bartenders
On Saturday. That was a
Yeah.
fantastic event.
So I pushed back watching the PLE, and I was so tired when I got home Saturday. I crashed out, but I popped right up at 5 a.m. Sunday. So I did my wrestling thing before even the family woke up. So I was caught up, but I loved the Raquel and Rhea match. I
Mhm.
was really hoping that Stephanie Vaquer was going to come out, but she didn't need her.
No, and honestly, I didn't expect Rhea to lose that match at all. I don't know where this story is going to go, though. Like, especially when it comes to the women's division on the Raw side of everything, because I would assume this is a one-off. This wasn't exactly built up to be anything long term between Raquel and Rhea, although they did a very good job at making an emotional tie, especially with the pre-match videos and stuff like that, showing the relationship between both Rhea and Raquel off screen and how close they are as friends, getting matching tattoos together and all that type of stuff. So that really built up the match to be even better. But with this Judgment Day story is going to get interesting. I do believe we're going to get a massive either undertaking or just carpet pulled out from under Dom and Raquel at the end of all of this when Judge Day eventually implodes.
Well, supposedly Rhea is starting out Raw tonight.
And we figure out as well, I believe, tonight what's going to be going on with the women's tag team championships because they've teased that the last couple
The New
shows.
Days taking on the
Judgment Day tonight. So there's a lot of really interesting matches in tonight's Raw, which again will be live from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania
at 3 p.m.
Yes, and which is the weirdest thing. I don't know. You're back in the US. I don't know why.
Just to help them, I'm sure.
Are we sure 100% it's at 3 o'clock? Because
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at it because
Netflix says 3 p.m.
That's weird.
Our time.
Maybe they're not in Pittsburgh then. I don't know because when I looked it up last night, it said they're in Pittsburgh.
It said they were in Pittsburgh during the PLE too.
And I'm pretty sure Adam Pearce said Pittsburgh yesterday in his video. So it's like, if you're in Pittsburgh, why are we at 3 o'clock?
They're doing it the special announcement or the special time. I think it's just because all the traveling they've been doing.
You know what? That's entirely
But
possible.
I'll take it because then I get to sleep on time.
Man, I have to wait though. I got my show at 3. I
yeah.
can't do that.
I won't get it till about 7, but
I know.
catch us tomorrow.
Absolutely. 7 to 9 as always. Early bird special. We got to get out of the way for the great Rich Eisen. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Sparky, let's get out of here.